Hey Carter, so this is going to be the opposite of go ask your brother. This is more like go tell your brother. I wanted to throw this together really quick just to follow up on two things we've been talking about. One, how to create and use VCA or voltage control amplifier channels or master faders. And then a little bit more about the subtlety of creating and editing automation. So I threw this together. It's called Made in Detroit. It's Alan Morgan stuff. It's just basic rock schlock. I'll give you 10 seconds of what we're up against here. Okay, so nothing special there. I want to look at the drums just for 30 seconds, by which I mean probably 2.5 minutes. In the track list, you have one, and I'll send this project to you, obviously. You've got one track for drums, Rock Kit 6, and obviously this is a Groove Agent thing, but I've routed each of the drum sounds to their own outputs, and you can see that here. So the kick, snare, hat, toms, crash, all that is coming out of Groove Agent. Instead of one stereo mix, it's 9 different audio channels on the output side. So you've got one track in the track list, but 9 drum channels in the mixer. And that's so you can play with this as if it was a live kit mic'd up in the traditional way. So down in the mixer section, you can see we've got from track 1 through track 9, this is all drums. And so absent a VCA fader, if you decided I'd like all of the drums pulled down or brought up, you would have to go track by track and increase them individually, which is a time-consuming pain in the ass and hard to do with any precision. So the best way to handle that is to select those and assign them to one control fader, a VCA fader. So we're going to do that, I'm going to select the first track by clicking on it. And the easiest place to click so that nothing changes is in the meter itself. So I'm going to click in track 1. I'm going to hold down the shift key and click in track 9. And now I've highlighted all of the drums. At that point, I can right click on any of them, call up this context menu, and then scroll down until you see VCA. And be careful here because there's 2 references to VCA in this context menu. This one says add VCA track, which will do nothing. And then the other one says add VCA fader to selected channels. That's what we want. And just for the sake of doing it, let me click the wrong one first. And when I click this, it's going to ask for a name, and then it's going to create this weird orphan track off to the side with no fader and nothing to do, and it's just weird. So we're going to call it weird. All right, and then we get this thing. There's nothing assigned to it. There's not even a control to manipulate. It's absolutely a terrible workflow. So Control Z, get out of that. Let's try that one more time. First drum track, shift key, last drum track. Right click, scroll down. And now we're going to select the second reference to VCA, which is add VCA fader to selected channels. And when I click this, we're going to get a nice neon green channel added to the mixer immediately to the right of the last selected channel. And that's going to be the one that'll control everything downstream. So right there is our green VCA, and you see it shows up in the track list as well, but there's no data associated with it. There's only an automation lane. But if I take this neon green fader now, manipulate it, you can see all of the drums assigned to it are going to move up and down in unison. And if you watch closely, you'll see the ratio between them change a little bit because these are parabolic scales with obviously with decibels. So if you bottom it out, they'll all go to 0, and same if you max it out. But it'll keep the perceived ratio between those sounds identical. So now you can move the kit, all of the drums up and down as a unit. The other, so let's see what that would look like. No drums, lots of drums. It also lets you solo and mute that whole chunk as a group now. So anything that you do to the VCA channel will apply to everything assigned to it. So mute, solo, listen, etc. If you decide that you want to alter the drum mix inside of the VCA, you can still come over here and take the hi-hat up and down individually. Let's say we want to take the hi-hat way down. Now the VCA will maintain that ratio. If we want the hi-hat higher, move the VCA and it'll move them as a group. So you can come in and mute or solo individual drums within this, but if you mute or solo the VCA, you get the entire section. So we want to hear just the drum mix. So we want a little more hi-hat, less, whatever it is. So let's do that gag one more time with the rhythm guitars. We'll select the first one, shift key, second one, right click, come down and say add VCA fader to selected channels. Boom, another funky green one, and now we get those. Okay, so that's how that works. Let me hit pause here and retool, and we'll come back and look briefly at automation, and we'll call it a night. Okay, so let's look just briefly at automation, and I'm picking on another throw together called Pacific Pool here, and we're just going to look at automating some weird stuff on one rhythm guitar channel. I'm going to pick on rhythm guitar 1 here, and I'm going to click the W key for write automation engage, and with that W key clicked, with the red W showing, any parameter you manipulate and change, Cubase is going to remember that, and it's going to create an automation lane for it. So I'm going to go through this little part of the verse, and first we're going to automate the panning, and then we'll automate some volume, and then just to show you how to do it, we'll automate some EQ stuff. And each time you touch something with that W key engaged, with the right automation mode active, it's going to throw down another automation lane on that track. So let's do panning first. And what I'm going to do to achieve this is just grab the panning control here in the individual channel and start wiggling it around. We're going to walk it left to right. See how it immediately creates an automation lane there? Okay, we'll back up to the beginning of that same section. We're going to pick on the same track. This time I'm going to move the volume up and down. Okay, still picking on that same track. I'm going to open its channel editor, pull it off to the side so you can see, and there's no EQ active. We'll pick a node here. I'm going to go back to that same point, and this time I'm going to, as soon as we start playback, I'll begin manipulating this EQ point, and you'll see it create a lane specifically for that. And actually it created a couple, because there's both the EQ node itself, its frequency selection, and its volume selection. So it's automating all of those things. My point here is, and you can even go into things like the reverb or the delay and change the echo intensity or the timing, and it'll remember all of that. So now we have, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 automation lanes all active for this one track. And if that gets cluttery, if you hover over the lower left-hand corner in the track list, you have a show hide capability there that'll unfold and fold up all of those. Now, once you have a bunch of automation data in there, you can zoom in and, of course, take the finger tool or the pen tool, and you can come in and you can select a whole bunch of nodes, you can delete them, you can make all sorts of edits and changes and so forth. But in terms of generating the automation in the first place, just engage the right automation, the red W, and play back. Sometimes it's easier to set it to loop, so it's just going over and over and over again, and you can change parameter after parameter until you've got everything the way you want it. So I guess the last thing to say is, what you don't have to do is open a blank automation lane and draw the automation in by hand, which is what it sounds like you've been doing. That certainly works, but it's cumbersome, And I think the workflow of just manipulating the control in real time during playback is probably going to be faster, easier, and get you closer to what you want sooner. So I hope that helps, and I will pack these up and send them to you, and we'll go from there. See ya.